Welcome to the House African, where we discuss web hosting and how it relates to business, the individual, and its general role in society. I'm Ashwin, your host. In today's episode, we've got Nelly Gesare, an entrepreneur and owner of Greenthing Kenya. Nelly, how do you do? I'm actually curious to know about your story and your journey to creating Greenthing. There's a couple of questions that I hope challenge you. Definitely questions that I thought were interesting when I was coming up with them. But let's start at the beginning. So you've been a storyteller for some time, having been a TV producer and then also having a YouTube channel. What's What's the story you're trying to tell with Greenthing? Like how did this journey start and what inspired you to tell the story?
I came to Nairobi to be a journalist. I've always been so intrigued by the ability of people to hold a microphone, discover something, package bits of information, and then deliver that information to provoke people, ask people to change, enlighten people about a certain topic. And so when I came to Nairobi, I was very sure I wanted to be on TV or radio. Okay, radio was second best, but I wanted to be on TV and not the glamorous TV side. I've always wanted to know that how things really, how information flows through communities, how people receive information and then break it down and then apply. So this was way, way, way back, and I was an assistant producer for a political TV show. And that involved getting an audience and then getting members of parliament, and then they talk. As an assistant producer for a political TV show, it required bringing people from the public and the people who are managing, say, our systems that run the nation to discuss about how they're not accountable, how we are not asking them to be accountable, how we should be having reforms from police to education to agriculture. And I think that led me into the aspect of development. By that time, we were still dealing with millennial development goals. And so I understood, I really studied a lot, the seven of them. And I even saw now the transition to sustainable development goals, all 17 of them. And what I realized from that is these are set of rules that are going to govern literally everything about humanity. Because while yes, they are documents, they are a list of things, they're essentially supposed to be improving the welfare of people and the dignity of people, but still respect the planet and the environment. And now, knowing that there are not so many people who understood this language or what is happening, really, forget even knowing the language, that it even exists, that Millennium Development Goals exist. And so I thought, yeah, okay, actually take this on and start creating videos and information to teach people on what these big fancy words actually mean in relation to you and your life. And it was fantastic because for the few people that I was talking to, they were actually intrigued. So it's not so complex. And that motivated me to now start a YouTube channel. I think I was really, really young to start that. And a money, I didn't have a money goal to creating. And so maybe I wasn't as thorough in creating a financial model around my activism, so to say, or around my educating people on sustainability that early. It went on well. And then when I gave birth to my last born daughter, she was born sick. And so everything just crashed and everything was also put on pause until 2019 when I discovered, yeah, I've been looking at this for a very, very long time. I still find climate change, sustainability, green economy, circular economy lingo elitist. It is not for the many. Even what the scientists are doing, I'm not sure they're breaking down the information for the people it's intended for to apply. And I thought that maybe what if I start using everyday products to bring out those conversations? And that's how Green Thing was born. It was a hobby that I started with $50, and it's grown to 14 full-time people, two physical branches, kiosks, I love to call them because they're small and cozy. And we have a few stockists throughout Nairobi, so Kenya, and one in Tanzania, one in Uganda, and one in South Sudan.
Wow, that's an incredible story. But yeah, it's I think it's incredible that you managed to keep your your passion and your drive for the issue, despite kind of changing, I don't want to say changing lanes, but like life happening, because I mean life happens and people lose focus or their goals change or their circumstances change, but you kind of you had your eyes on the prize the whole time. And I think it's a very important issue as well that we're kind of facing in modern times, is that like information is, it's very accessible. Like I'm sure Google is like, you can Google anything. I mean, nobody really goes to the library, but if you want to, like, libraries are available to go to. There's so much knowledge, but like being able to understand it, or the knowledge actually being available for like everyday people to use, or like just like digest, that's a different story like altogether. So I think the way that you kind of went about it, bringing um, environmental issues or sustainability to the forefront of people's thinking, like in this way, I think it's a very innovative idea. It's definitely something that I wouldn't have thought of, because I mean, the when I think of speaking about an important issue to people or just bringing it up, it's the way I usually think of is, well, we're gonna have a conversation, and I mean, I will talk to maybe one other person, right? But I mean, with Greenthing, it's, you can get the conversation started with basically anyone who buys the product. So I think it's a very strong, very powerful idea. Very powerful idea. Um, we we actually have something in common with our backgrounds. I studied journalism, so yeah, we have that in common. Yeah, so yeah, I also started, obviously, not wanting to be on TV, but also started writing, which is kind of my, I'd say, passion and hobby. Do it for work and also like in my free time. But yeah, so we have that in common, which I think is quite cool. But I I I want to get to our next question, because the well, there's a couple of things that I want to know about sustainability and environmental issues and eco-friendliness in general that I'm actually not sure about. So my next question for you is like, your the purpose of your store, like you said, is to get the conversation started, right? With like environmental issues or sustainability, and to make it become more relatable. Why do you think it's important that we talk about it? Like, and also, why hospitality items, or household items, as opposed to, like I mentioned, what my way of doing it which would be maybe a podcast or a conversation or something. Like, why do you think your way works? Not that it's right or wrong, either one. I mean, either one works, but why do you think yours is a good idea?
I used home care products because it's easier to address something that you see every day. Everybody brushes teeth every day. It's easier to think, okay, why is she saying bamboo versus plastic? Okay, why is she saying I carry a bag? Which is what a lot of, so my target audience obviously goes to work. They leave the house. So why would I carry something else? Why should I carry a bag instead of just walking outside and buying another plastic? It is easier to address something when you see it every day. And then another very big aspect of sustainability is waste, which essentially looks into how we consume. The reason why we have a problem with fossil fuel, it's not because fossil fuels are bad, essentially. It's because of our need to have more, better, faster. So we have to get that fossil fuel to be able to produce for us faster. You see the drive. So it is our needs, the things we use in the house, the things we entertain ourselves with, That's why the oil industry is thriving. And so if I start addressing the underlying cause of this, then it's easier for me to create impact. That's essentially it. It's two reasons. It's easier to address something that you see every day. It's normal. And I personally forget a lot of things unless it's in my face. And I know a lot of people are like that. And second, plastic by itself might be a beautiful product, but how we handle it, absolutely wrong. So now we have to start conversations on how do we handle it best, like not handle it at all, or look for alternatives that actually respect the planet, because the planet gives us and then we give it back. So we need to find a symbiotic relationship between us and the planet through the product or through how we consume.
I mean, it's a really well thought out reason. I mean, like clearly you put a lot of thought into your business model, but besides not only the business model, but like the why of your business, it's not it's I mean, for I don't want to say a lot of people, but let's say for some people, having a business is kind of a means to an end, right? Like they have a skill or a skill set and they can use it to make money, but it's kind of like you went the opposite direction where it's you have a passion and how can I use this passion to make money, it just feels it's quite refreshing. I like your outlook. I like your reasoning, your thought pattern. I mean, it feels very critical to the issues. You aren't just trying to create a quick fix, but like something that's lasting, that actually makes a difference. And I mean, I think it does. This is maybe a bit irrelevant. This isn't part of the regular line of questioning, but just something that I noticed when I was looking at your website is the do you do any distributions in South Africa? Because there's a Whole Foods store here that I feel like I'm almost certain I saw um, one of your products there, but I can't be sure because the packaging was very similar. So I just wanted to find out if you do any distributions in South Africa.
No, I don't, or not yet. And sometimes it's actually not possible to track your product fully where they're going, because you can get somebody coming to the shop or in Kenya buying wholesale and then going. You never really know where they go. But also, eco-friendly products is a growing industry globally. You can find the same product. Some of the products I sell here in the States, in SA, in Europe as well. I think that's in Africa, definitely South Africa would have. Um, yeah, no, it's possible they're mine, but it's also possible that they're not mine. But sustainable and eco-friendly products are on the rise.
No, I mean that's for sure. I'm actually gonna when I go to that Whole Foods store again, I'm gonna snap some photos, and if I do find it, I'm gonna tell Janet to email you, or I'll email you myself just to show you that it's here. Because I mean, like the if it is, I mean, like that. Think about that impact, like all the way from Kenya, and like you're making a difference. You're getting a conversation started. I mean, you kind of having an impact in my own life when you like halfway across the world, so it's yeah, I think it's a very noble pursuit that you're on. And yeah, it's just I'm in awe basically. but um
Yeah.
but yeah.
I was going to add something that it's possible because we also do white labeling. So Greenthing has a retail side, which is really home mostly. And then we have the corporate side, which is normally organizations that want to either reduce their carbon footprint or they want to be ESG compliant. So then white label. So in retail, you find almost everything branded Greenthing. But for corporate, we brand almost everything for other companies. So that's why I'm saying it's very difficult to say if it's mine or not.
Okay, interesting. I have a couple of questions for you related to like business and corporate and how they interact with your product. But I mean, we'll get there a bit later. The the show that you created based on sustainable living, the one on YouTube, and then I mean, you then moving to become an entrepreneur. Like when at the time of your like starting Greenthing, was it you said you started it with what was like $50? Was that oh well 50 what currency was it?
$50. So around
Oh,
8,000 Kenyan shillings.
okay, so around like 8,000 Kenyan shillings. Yeah. Um, when you started it, was it kind of like a side hustle, or was it a full-time thing? You just like, okay, I'm canceling everything now, and like this is what we are doing. Like we are straight into Greenthing.
I think I went through possibly the worst time of my life. Possibly the worst time. I felt that I had nothing else to lose. And so I'm going to do it. And it was a hobby. It was sometimes I almost feel that what I'm doing is who I am. It's not, I don't have to go outside my home or outside my work to even create content. What I'm selling is what is the same journey I'm going through. Some of the products I've launched them because I saw a need in my home. And I know it's not a very clever way for an entrepreneur to launch products. You can't just do because you want. No. Um, but sometimes authenticity and mission driven businesses actually thrive like that because I'm not particularly unique. I am a 36-year-old woman, two children. So I'm sure there are people like those on the same journey as I am. The toxicity in products, in clothes, in our food is on the rise. Infertility, diseases with names we've never heard of. We only saw them on a geo or some medical journals now are with us. And so it was a combination of things. I would say a collection of knowledge for so long. I think good timing as well, coming into the market and a product being accepted from the very first time. My first product was sold out in 2 days. And living that lifestyle that also really pushed me so much. I had nothing to lose anymore. I'd already hit rock bottom. So the only way is up. Yeah. Essentially that's what happened. And I think there's something I also forgot to mention. In 2014 I produced Greenthing, the show. The name Greenthing does not specifically fit into Greenthing Kenya, the brand. It was the name of the show that I produced. I did the episodes, did a pilot, three pilots, one on electric bicycles, one on converting human waste to fertilizer, and another one of converting waste to jewelry. And actually, now in 2024, I'm doing it again. And I started with some of the topics I was doing. There's even a comparison. So the TV show being done now is not new. This is an idea from way back. But producing that and going to different TV stations, and they could not take it because they said that kind of content would not generate enough revenue for them in 2014, meant that I had nowhere to go show it. I was not funded. I've never been funded. And so I had to put it on pause. Now that Greenthing is grown, I've started explaining. I've converted few people who have even gone ahead and started businesses with some of the principles that I've taught. I feel it's time for me to go back to the love of my life, film. And that's how the TV show has come back. The Greenthing show, actually.
I mean, that's a nice little bow on the story. I mean, of course, it's not done. I mean, I think there's still a lot of work, lot of work that you can do, and I'm sure like you have your own goals that you're trying to achieve, like within the bounds of your passion and your mission. But I think it's nice that you kind of went like full circle. You know, I mean, I'm not sure if I don't want to dive too deeply into this, but you mentioned your one of your children was born sick. Is Do you feel like you wouldn't have taken like the risk if you still had something to lose? Like if you weren't at your rock bottom, do you feel like you would have played it safe and not have taken the leap? Because I mean, just thinking about what you said, it's kind of like, and I mean, it makes sense. Like if there is nothing to lose, you might as well just try it anyway, right? But if there is something to lose, like, is it worth the risk?
I probably think I wouldn't have done it. I am a professional overthinker. I am a professional perfectionist. And so I need to have all the answers. The story needs to build. And I'm always a big believer in, no, I'm in the stages where I'm questioning between creating content and actually creating a well-researched journalistic piece. Those are very different things. Just pointing a camera and doing that is very different from researching and really build a story. It's very different. And so sometimes I want to think I'm an overthinker, or sometimes I actually think, unfortunately, I understand what makes a story, and so I must take it through that process. Without my daughter getting really, really sick, I don't think I would have done it. I would have just continued the process of staying in my thoughts and not executing at least one of these things. All the ideas I know I'm doing now are not new to me. From the show to workshops to retail to corporate to the show to my life, and not by chance. They were just propelled in one go by the idea that I could actually lose all of it. My voice needs to be heard. We're in a point where even businesses like mine are not normally owned by African women or African for that matter. So, what am I trying to tell my daughter? I have to get out there and tell her she's a superstar, and yeah, she needs to be out there. I think I had a larger drive than sustainability. It was do or die almost. But at that time, I didn't see it that way. And we'd lost everything, all our savings. It was just, so all the money I was saying I don't have to go out there and film, I don't have it. I still don't have money to launch a business. And sometimes I'm happy I didn't, because when you go to business school, you're taught first come up with a business plan and then have goals and then have tasks and then monitor that. And sometimes when it's your calling, when it's your mission, you'll figure it out. And I actually don't think there's anybody who knows fully what they're going to do from the word go. You have an idea, you put time into researching what you care about, and somehow the universe always brings you that information when it knows that you know how to deliver that. And this is how I'm here now.
It's a very enlightened perspective, I'd say. There's what it makes me think of is actually, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, but one of the ideas that he had, and I'd say that he made popular, is that he I think it was in one of his letters that he wrote to, I'm not sure if it was an acquaintance or a friend. I think it must have been a friend, but basically he was saying that the he wishes nothing but hard times on them, like all the worst experiences, like they need to like have the worst kind of suffering, because that's the thing that'll kind of build character and build strength for
Yeah.
them, and I mean, it's sounds like that's been the case with you as well. You had your terrible experiences, and well, you came out and obviously a lot stronger now. And I mean, going back to your old ideas now that you, like you said, universal aligned, and like you're ready to kind of implement it. Um, maybe maybe not fully or all of it from a financial perspective, but from a mental perspective, or just understanding the process a bit better. I think I mean, it definitely sounds like you're on the path to being there. So yeah, I think that's pretty well done, I'd say. How difficult is it to create a business that offers green solutions versus a regular business, especially when it comes to costs?
I can give you an example. Plastic is cheaper than cotton. Whether you're in the dump site, whether you're buying something in the supermarket, or you're buying a bag. And so for me to now look at how the conventional packaging is done and then teach people, my audience, on what is wrong or what is better, because let's also clearly state that plastic has its advantages. It's easier to move. And if it's easier to move, then there's less carbon emissions when it's in transition. And when you're starting a green business, there's so many factors to consider than just getting the product to the consumer. I personally have to take into account how every part of my value chain actually plays up to the whole picture of Greenthing ecosystem. So not just my audience, but also how do I sleep better? How do I sleep better? And one of the, as I'm one of the first few African businesses in that, if in East Africa for sure has to be maybe two at the moment. So I'm not just a business, it's also creating a standard, so to say. And so how I source, how I add value, how I distribute, how I sell. After selling, what does the customer do? I have to consider every little part of my product and systems. It's a lot harder than somebody who's just, say, mass produce. Packaging is standardized. They don't care if we need to figure out how to use that textile waste and probably put it into packaging for this season so that we save costs. But also we live up to our name. We cannot be saying this and then we are doing that, right? You have to practice what you preach. You have to practice what you preach. And it's easier, but also harder in a business like mine. Because I know sometimes my audience might not know the processes that I've taken. And it's easier for me to even greenwash them because I know both sides. But to really step down and be as authentic as possible and make sure that I've considered the planet, I've considered the profits, I've considered the people in my product and systems, it's a lot more costly and really consumes a lot of time because it's not mass. Even my soaps are not the same weight because anything handmade, anything made with people in mind really and natural ingredients, there's no way it can be the same. It's like assuming all human beings are the same. I want to use nature's principles in my products and systems. That is expensive because you cannot just water grass today and tomorrow you say like, oh, no, there's a process to that.
Would you then say that starting a green business or any green initiative, do you think it's limited or it's only suitable for people who have the passion or the drive? Or do you think like people can kind of get on it maybe just for the hype? Because I mean, just listening to all the points that you made, like it does sound like it will take more work and more things to consider, and I mean more stresses for yourself as well. And I mean, obviously there's lots of things happening at once in life, you know. So is there still value if someone starts a green business and maybe their heart isn't in it the same way yours is? Is that still important or?
Anybody can do anything, and everybody has different strengths. And I think the way sometimes I look at my business would probably not make my business $1 billion business because I'm stressing about how things are done. Unless I don't know, I find angel investors who go like, I like what you're doing and we need more people like you. But let's be honest, funding for a lot of people, a lot of Africans is based on risk versus opportunity. And sustainability, sustainable living is slowly becoming a fad. And you know how fads are. It's stylish, we do it, you get in. Any business, I feel, goes really, really, really long and has a longer shelf life when it's driven by something beyond the products. Anybody really. That's what I've observed. There are people whose businesses have failed, but they still continue doing the same thing in different capacities. So I'd say two things. It's not necessarily difficult. It's a business like any other business. It's just mission driven, and there are more factors to be considered because we cannot continue messing up with our resources the way we do, the way we've been doing. Yeah, I think anybody can do it, but it's not as easy. It's not as easy.
Okay. No, I mean, you mentioned something that's an issue that I was kind of alluding to is that I think sustainability or eco-friendliness has become maybe at least in some areas a bit of a fad. People adopt it because it's like it's the hype, it's the in thing now. But the way you kind of operating, it doesn't show that you are doing it for those reasons. I mean, like even going back to your story, I mean, you're doing it because this is like actually what's dear to you. And so my thinking was just like, would the same goals kind of, or would would the same targets be met if someone was doing it because it was a fad versus you who's doing it for your passion? And I mean, I'm sure, I mean, just based on what you said, like if it is your passion, I mean, like you said, the shelf life will be longer, and you'd probably go the extra mile to ensure that even after the product is, let's say, or the service is done being used, like even, I mean, it's beyond your control then, but you implemented strategies where the disposal of that would be in an eco-friendly or sustainable manner, whereas maybe someone who's doing it for a fad wouldn't consider that. Yeah, it's just interesting to know how your thinking kind of shapes what you deliver, you know. But I want to find out, are people resistant when it comes to like purchasing or stocking eco products? I mean, like you mentioned when you started your TV show that I mean there wasn't going to be really revenue or market for what you wanted to do. Is that kind of still the case? And I mean, if there are reservations with stocking like sustainable products, like what are they? Like what are the biggest challenges to getting people on board to like, hey, let's be more sustainable. Let's like care about the environment.
If the systems and policies that our government is creating around sustainability and waste management is it's something that to go by, is that there's more need for awareness on climate change and sustainability. And people have seen the value, not just from an individual perspective, where honestly, this is too much. All these flimsy things, first of all, they break so fast, they don't last as long, they're full of toxins. It's just too much. And I think people's realization, because my brand is 5 years and there are people I've only managed to convert to customers after 4 years. They've been around seeing me talking every day on Instagram about the toxins in our soap and are eventually buying. So the timing, to be honest, has made it easier for me because I was waiting for them with open arms when they're ready to come. And also some of the policies that are being formed into the country, in our country, also allows for businesses like mine to thrive. But let's also realize that this is not it's not a new thing. Sorry. Sustainable living is not a new thing. I grew up in the village up to when I was 19 years old. I only came to Nairobi when I was 19. And so I had not used shower gel until I was in Nairobi. So for me, unlike, say, some of my friends or customers, who are using a shampoo bar, it might feel foreign. It might feel like it is an extra step for them. For me, it's so natural. And I think for so many other people who've grown up country where there's less consumption, because first of all, we're not near a city where everything is just calling us with beautiful packaging. That's what was available. The price point was right. The longevity was right, but also the people above me, my mother, my grandmother was using this. So this is what I know. But of course, the oil industry, the billion-dollar beauty industry, that is also one of the biggest contributors of toxins in plastic, they had not reached us. Unlike now, where they have little sachets for soap, like really small, and really cheap, like 8 shillings cheap. And they have access to rural areas now. But traditionally speaking, sustainability has always been practiced in my village. I remember my mom was a primary school teacher for 36 years. And I remember when she used to come home, if we were home because we went to boarding school, she'd use her headscarf. If she had not carried a bag, she'd use her headscarf to like tie and then bring bananas or avocado, something. Right now, it would be considered so fancy and eco girl, but it's been done for so long. We are just amplifying it and modernizing it and making it palatable for a modern day human being to consume.
It's an interesting idea, I think, because I mean, you're mentioning like the oil industry and the beauty industry and just kind of how things are done like in the city versus maybe a rural or traditional village or a place in the outskirts, where technology or the West's ideals or just way of doing things hasn't fully like reached them yet. And that's interesting to me is that it's kind of like we have to regress a bit before we can progress. It's kind of like we have to make the conditions bad or make things toxic before we realize that, oh, like we were doing this like maybe 100 years ago or something and it worked, like we should go back to doing that. So it's a very interesting way that like things or how things have turned out to be. I mean,
There's a name for that. It's DED. And we are decarbonizing. To decarbon, you have to de-influence. To de-influence, it's degrowth, which would decarbonize. It's, yeah, for a long time, at the moment, there's almost every day, I know, as soon as I go online, there will probably be a fashion influencer talking about Temu or Shane. There will always be that. And then, of course, there will be people like me who want to be influencers. Say, the last time I bought the skirt I'm wearing, or the last time I shop for clothes was 5 years ago, and I still have it, and it still looks beautiful, and it's good quality. There are people who are talking like that. And that de influencing essentially, because as an entrepreneur, forget as a consumer, now I was talking as a consumer. As an entrepreneur, I'm only going to produce what people are putting their money on. It's really that simple. If there's a demand for linen clothing or clothing that have a blend of hemp and linen and cotton, that's what I'm going to produce. And if there's a demand for people understanding on how things are done, then even an employer would know that soon enough, I'm actually not going to be able to afford these people because they want a better quality of life, aka plastic-free clothing, which means my salary has to be better. It's a ripple effect of degrowth, decarbonizing, de-influencing. Yeah.
some very interesting terms. I think I'm gonna have to research some of that myself, because that's I mean, you introducing it to me for the first time now, so definitely something I want to learn about because it's definitely sounds like relatable to me. I mean, when I'm scrolling through like social media and it's like, I mean, you see like you mentioned some influencer talking about any modern brand or something, and then on the other hand you also find an influencer talking about maybe obviously a lot smaller following, but like things that you're passionate about, like maybe toxins in everyday products, like pans, like using a cast iron pan or stainless steel pan as opposed to Teflon or anything. So yeah, it's quite interesting. I want to get to my next question. Is that Kenya emitted some of the lowest CO2 emissions in Africa, right? With 0.4 tons per capita in emissions, which I think is pretty good. I mean, it's a good step by the government to kind of push this. What small things can people do, like regular people like us, if we want to assist like the government or maybe governments from whichever country we are from to become more sustainable and respectful of the environment? Obviously, besides purchasing green thing products, I mean, I'm sure that would be a big help. But like, what other things can people do?
I'm probably shooting myself on the foot right now by saying that we cannot buy ourselves out of the mess we created. We created. I would say the first thing is vote right. Start looking at people's manifestos. Does it put the environment in one place? Because let me tell you, the problem we have is not the availability of Teflon, really cheap Teflon, or information that says, like, since 2013, we have safe Teflon. Or, you see where I'm going? It has to be systemic change. If the system is rotten, whatever I'm doing really doesn't make too much sense. You're as strong as your weakest link. And so if you know, if you vote right, it means even the policies that are being put in place actually even allow you to look at different eco-friendly products that fit you, not the only thing available in the market. That this is how our country, our economy is going to run, that different people, and we're going to have a very intersectional approach to providing to the people. Educate yourself. Educate. Don't just trust Nelly. Don't just trust Nelly. But you need to trust me though, because I've done a lot of research. Go out there and find things that you're interested in. Sometimes I get so shocked when people say, okay, so what kind of jobs can I get in the sustainability industry? What industry though? I think it's because people look at sustainability as environmentalism. No, environmentalism is just one aspect of sustainability. There's a social part, there's an economic part. It is life. We are actually either looking for money, a good quality life, or ourselves and a shade, the tree, in medicine from the tree and fruits from the tree. So, given those three things, surely you can get a job in any of those places. So, it's really important to educate yourself so that you consume better, but also to strategically think about how you're actually going to keep your job to afford good things. And also even have time to go through a manifesto, because not everybody has time to go through that. The third one is use eco-friendly products, definitely. Then after you've created a system, educated yourself, now let it funnel through you. Buy eco-friendly products, and especially start with eco-friendly products that are sold to you, that you can use them for different purposes, or you can use that as a base for making different products. Another example is I sell sodium bicarbonate. It has over 30 uses as toothpaste, as deodorant, as oven cleaner, as deodorizer, very, very many things. Now, if you buy one thing and then you realize you don't need to buy 5 more plastic bottled products to solve that need that you wanted, it's pretty satisfying to not spend money. And I think everybody should just not expose themselves to toxins. So, yes, be part of changing the system, educate yourself, consume properly, consciously by buying eco friendly products, learn what you can do at an individual level by either making the products by yourself or being the change you want to see. If you go to church, see if you can create an environmental club in that. If you're a teacher, can you start implementing that in your class? If you're a citizen, can you start an eco-friendly brand like Greenthing? So yeah, those are my main ones.
Okay, I mean, I think they're pretty practical examples. Maybe the battling the system seems to be a bit of a long-term one, perhaps, because I mean that's definitely not something that happens overnight. But I think some of the smaller changes are a good place to start. Maybe in building the habits at first, before it becomes an ideal, like similar to how, let's say, you decide to start training at the gym. It's not like you're gonna train 5 days a week at the start. Maybe you'll go 1 or 2 days until you get into the flow, and then eventually, after a year, you're doing it 4 or 5 times a week, and you're kind of comfortable with that, and you think of yourself as someone who exercises, whereas a year before you just went once or twice a week. So I think those are some good practical suggestions. I'm I don't want to be too pessimistic. I'm just thinking about in terms of how the system works, because I mean, on an individual level, maybe we are but small, like thrashing against the system, trying to overthrow it, or trying to change what the norm is, you know. But I do think we're kind of making some progress, because I suppose in a sense the sustainability or eco-friendliness it's coming to the forefront of people's minds, and maybe it is as a fad with some people, but it's still spoken about, or it's still yeah in people's thought a lot more than it was maybe 15 or 20 years ago, you know. At least in the built up areas. I'm sure, like in the outskirts or the rural areas, it's they didn't even think about it as sustainability. It was just, you know, a way of life. So yeah, it's yeah,
But I
just
can
thinking
tell
about you.
we can create the very best systems. I can have the very best products. But before all these things happen, we must have an attitude change. We really must see the value before we even take that journey. Because, for example, we have over 10 policies around waste management in Kenya. We just had another one, the Sustainable Waste Management Act 2022, that requires every household to have 3 bins for organic waste, recyclables, and whatever. But if we are being real, some of the people in Kenya don't even have a house that can accommodate 4 of their family members. Forget about putting 3 bins to segregate waste. Once we have an attitude change, we can actually have policies that favor us. We can leave home and go and sit in these public participation activities, because we know what it means. We know the business opportunities available in waste. We know we want to design something that is for us. So attitude change, it should actually come as fast before even system. Attitude change. Attitude change is the one that makes everything else work. And no, it's not easy to change a system, especially in Africa. It's a long process. And the fossil fuel industry is not an easy one to go head to head with. It's not. It has its advantages. It does have its advantages. And once we understand what it is that we need, it is easier for anybody to create a roadmap. And the roadmap could be actually scrapping off all the other policies we've had and create one that favors everybody, that is intersectional to the economic bracket, the life, the family size, and stuff like that.
Okay. I mean, I suppose this is on a bigger scale than the individual, but maybe a smaller scale than the system. But the question I want to ask is, like, if those are suggestions for the individual, then what can businesses do? Let's say they want to make a transition to not being a sustainable business, but they want to be a bit more sustainable or a bit more eco-friendly. Like, what kind of things can they implement that you think would work?
As I mentioned earlier, plastic free and less waste is not equivalent to sustainability. Sustainability can be, of course, less waste in the office. Sustainable company culture, which means you actually care about the welfare of the people that work in an office. They are not machines anymore. This person sometimes has menstruation towards to 21 days. How do you respect a person going through their menstruation, but also ask them to deliver? Such things is actually what sustainability is, to a degree. The idea of doing, how much are we paying our employees? I cannot say I'm a sustainable brand making sustainable products, and then I'm paying my makers 15,000 per month Kenyan shillings. So there are so many aspects on what makes something sustainable. If I were a business, I am a business, and this is something what I do is look at the angles of sustainability, economic, social, and planet. I actually offer consultancy on this. Figure out where you are and then create systems around that. It could be employee welfare. It could be, how do you find an office, for example? How do you find an office that would make sure that you don't spend money heating or cooling the office? A lot of us, sometimes we choose offices that you would never know if it's 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. And then we say that we are a sustainable brand running lights the whole day. No, I think every business should start thinking on how nature principles are and work around that. That's the simplest general blanket statement, I would say. There are so many angles to sustainability that businesses can start looking into. But reducing waste is the very first one. Employee welfare is the second one. Making money so that you actually manage these things. Corner office with light coming in and wind coming in is also important.
It's quite interesting because I think maybe just listening to your explanation, I get the sense that maybe I also misunderstood what sustainability meant. And I mean, it sounds like it's all connected, right? It's not there's not like one one particular thing that you focus on and that makes you sustainable or conscious of the environment. Like just for example, the separate bins issue. I mean, like I'm sure it helps, but it's like a drop in the ocean of all the things that you could be doing or implementing. To kind of make the change. And I guess it goes back to two things that you mentioned before. Is that I guess we need to educate ourselves on what it actually means to be sustainable and then change our attitude so that we can be that way. Because I suppose doing something because you were told to do it versus doing something because you know it's the right thing, it's going to produce two different results, or at least to my mind. So yeah, but I I wanna shift to a bit of technology because I mean we've been talking about sustainability and environmentally conscious for a bit, and I kind of want to find out. I mean, AI is kind of I mean, it's at the forefront of a lot of things now. It's very popular. Lots of companies are adopting it. Wait, first, let me ask you this before I introduce AI. You mentioned your business is it's not only in Kenya, right? You kind of transcend borders. Like, how how does having an e-commerce store allow you to grow Greenthing versus just having a physical store? I mean, I know you said you have two kiosks as well, but like, what's the value of a physical store versus an e-commerce store to you?
Good question. With an e-commerce, you can reach more people at a smaller fee. As we've spoken about sustainability, whenever you open a physical store, you're going to have people manning those stores, and they better not earn peanuts because that's not a sustainable product. Versus an e-commerce that you actually, I think is really important for a lot of small businesses and starting businesses, but even bigger businesses, because it is less for more. Also, I've grown. If I didn't have all the stockists that sell my products, the only thing that I could have done to be able to reach the same number of people is really make sure that my e-commerce is running on steroids. That's what I would do. I would spend all the money there. Because yes, brick and mortar was very, very popular back then. And it's coming back because, of course, AI and everything is so automatic. Looking for anything is not so difficult anymore. But that human to human experience where I come, I touch, I smell, I talk, to do things beyond the automation that we have. E-commerce is allows businesses like us to penetrate markets that we would not reach if we just walk through physical stores. I think that's the biggest advantage.
With that in mind, do you think you'd still grow your physical presence even though e-commerce has the advantages that it does? Because I mean, like you mentioned, like on some level, the human experience, it I feel like it is enhanced if you in a store and you get to kind of like touch, feel, smell, see all those things physically. But thinking about it from a sustainable point of view, like if I could do it online, we'd be occupying less space. You wouldn't be concerned with transport costs, which obviously which would increase CO2 emissions. I mean, there's probably a list of things that we could go on about, but do we then just do everything artificially because it's sustainable? Like, where do we draw the line?
I thought about something, but it has escaped me. I have to think about this answer critically. E-commerce also has a carbon footprint, just as a physical store. They both have a carbon footprint. And AI especially is going to have one of the highest carbon footprint. I think it was last year when I was researching about digital carbon footprint. And do you know the song called Shark Doodoo? Baby Shark Doodoo.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
that is one of the songs with the highest carbon footprint to date. So
Uh,
having an e-commerce does not necessarily mean zero emissions. It is just it's a cheaper way to run a business, I would assume, because two physical stores, and not everybody actually has, because people are so busy at the moment. Not everybody has time to come to the shop. Oh, I need a toothbrush. Oh, let me go. I need toothpaste tubs. I need to go. I need soap. You go. That movement is actually releasing gas emissions versus picking a phone or going to a website and ordering, and delivery is done. And delivery, the main reason why I would say e-commerce actually reduces the carbon footprint to a degree for a business is that even the orders are accumulated. The second thing, it's easier for inventory to be managed. You can actually see how your business is growing versus a physical store, which has a lot of traditional principles that are subject to human error or human mischief. Yeah. I would say that it's easier for you to manage your inventory. It's easier for a business to even project how their business is going to be in 2 years when they're using an e-commerce versus a physical store.
okay, this one is this question is slightly irrelevant, but the Baby Shark song, how does that have the most how does that have a big emissions profile or carbon footprint? Explain that, please.
The amount of times it's been played and where it's stored, and then that's actually the next thing we are going to talk about next. You read about it and then we talk.
Okay, well, I mean, I was thinking we definitely need to have you on again. I mean, especially maybe in a few months after you get your, I'm not sure if you're gonna do it on YouTube or maybe you'll get funding this time around and actually have it on air on a TV show or anything. But the I definitely want to get you on for when that journey starts because that sounds like a different a new kind of worms that I'd like to open. But yeah, no, I'm gonna keep that question in my back pocket for our next one. But just quickly while we're on AI though, it's like so you kind of mentioned that an e-commerce store on steroids would probably or maybe be ideal. But thinking about AI as a whole, like do you have any use for it in your business model? I mean, yes, a physical store has its pros and cons. E-commerce pros and cons as well, you know. But has there been like a period where you considered maybe some AI implementation could have some benefit, not just from monetary value, but actual sustainable benefit as well?
AI can determine, well, this is one way that I would use or I should use AI properly. AI has access to data from almost everybody and anything. And it's easier, I feel that sometimes it's easier to use AI to minimize waste. It is important to use AI to know what people need and then produce them. I know this company from Nigeria. She does clothing. And before she releases her collection or before she manufactures her collection, she actually uses AI to produce the same clothes and determine people's feeling towards it and then produce according to people's needs. Now, if I could do that for Greenthing, it would be pretty cool. I haven't thought about it, but I'm pretty sure it could be really relevant to me. Because AI also has stopped people. It reduces guesswork. If I know how much inventory passed through my e-commerce last year, feed that into AI, it's easy for me to put money and effort on anything else that the company needs versus this. Traditionally, this was done by a business strategic consultant or something like that, who you have to pay a lot of money. And now we have access to AI and websites and e-commerce that smaller businesses can actually take advantage and be on the same level as any other bigger brand. I think AI is an equalizer to a certain degree. As long as you know what you want to look for, then it kind of guides you. But if you don't know, you can also start. But sometimes with AI, it can mislead you if you don't know fully what you're looking for. But if you know, definitely, it can save you money, it can save you waste, it can save you time.
I tend to think about it in similar terms. I mean, you're just saying it's that it's being the great equalizer. It makes me think of the firearm or the gun when it was invented, because they also considered it the great equalizer. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're big, you're small. Like, I mean, if you have a gun, if two people have a gun, I mean, they both equal, kind of, in a way, you know. And it's I think that is, I mean, it's a very astute observation by you, because I think it does level the playing field a lot more. AI, especially for small businesses or people looking to educate themselves. I mean, on some level, you do need to know what you don't know, so you can kind of research it a bit more. But I think AI helps you along if you don't know what you don't know, if that makes sense, you know. So yeah, that's a very very interesting observation by you, I think. I just want to change gears to something that we didn't touch on, but when you sent your background package, I was reading it, and I mean, there was a couple of directions we could have gone in terms of the information you provided, and the sustainability one. I mean, because your business is centered around it, I felt like that should be the main focus of like the line of questioning. But I do want to touch on this for a bit, and that's your company being female, woman led. What specific challenges did you encounter as a woman entrepreneur when you started Greenthing, and what, if there were any at all, actually, and how did you overcome them?
I think, to be honest, I haven't struggled with that so much. But generally, thinking as a storyteller, as a person who looks at sustainability and climate change holistically, there are things I see that maybe they don't affect me yet, but they affect my salespeople, they affect my tailors, they affect my phone days. So it's almost indirect. From the perspective of how I grew up, I know that boys know better. I wasn't used to seeing so many founders and CEOs, women CEOs. It was an exceptional thing. Even now, why do we find it necessary to even say women led? When I get a role or get applauded for because of my gender, it's as bad as being denied an opportunity because of my gender. It should just be, it should just be, it should just be. But we can't, because sustainability also has to be intersectional. Who is this person? What are her traits? What's stopping her from getting access to certain things? In an African setting, especially upcountry setting, a woman didn't speak. A woman is submissive. I remember I was a rebel growing up. My siblings say that I am my father's favorite child. And so even driving, I remember because we used to shower outside when he could come with these old Datsuns. I don't know if you remember them. But even if I was showering, I must be dressed up and sit on his lap and put the car in. And I wasn't driving. I wasn't driving, but I was doing the whole thing. And I remember how the community looked at that. Like, that's not a boy. What are you stressing yourself about? Even getting, because he also used to grow coffee and pyrethrum to go get money from those circles. He used to put me in these vans to go and get like the official documents. And I was really, really young. And again, it was looked at, why is a girl doing that? Why can't a boy do that? And I have step siblings with three older boys. And people were questioning why they can't go and I go. So this is something I have almost unconsciously dealt with for so long, and maybe even unconsciously strategized to either fit in or find my way without offending people as a woman in business. I don't think I've struggled with it, but a lot of women I know globally, not just Africa, they're playing catch up. And maybe that's why, even if it's a fact, and there's also a chance for greenwashing, because now you see a lot of climate change, sustainability based businesses fronting women or hiring people specifically because that's how the grants and donations are flown. It is there. And just from that statement, it means we are making the problem even bigger. Yeah. Gender is important because we need to remove it as a prerequisite for doing something greatly or badly. We just need to eliminate it. We need to move to other cooler stuff. Yeah.
I think our perspectives align on that issue, and it's something I picked up early on in our conversation. Is that I mean, even though I'm asking this question now, close to the end of our podcast, it's the sense I got in the beginning was that nothing you said or did or earned, like in your story, felt like you feeling you're doing this because you are a woman, or you felt like it had some guiding impact or guiding force into your actions. It really just felt like you are a human who has a passion or a mission, and that is what you're gonna do. Doesn't matter if you're human or if there was other species that could speak, communicate our language or anything. Doesn't matter what it was. You just you have your goal, and that is what you do. I think the closest kind of I'm not sure if it's philosophy or an idea or ideal, but like I think that the closest thing to it that I can think of is meritocracy, and that's basically just kind of, I'd say, like sorting people based on what they bring to the table, what they can do. And I mean, I feel like you do a lot, doesn't matter what your gender is. So yeah, that's very I think well, I mean, it's just one person, but I think you have a very good perspective on that, I'd say.
It's
It's a
about time. It's also how I grew up seeing only women cook. I don't like cooking. Surely. I cook because I kind of have people as my responsibility, and so I cook. But also, my son has been cooking since he was quite little. And I don't think he's been exposed to the language or the idea that the kitchen is a woman's place. He hasn't. And so the attitude change also comes in. And he hasn't been exposed to that toxicity. So fortunately, I don't need to shift it. But yeah, I think gender should be a theme that we talk about in school. Talk about it until it means nothing, until we say, okay, that concept is outdated now. It's really outdated because it's also one of the reasons why we still have gender-based violence cases not being reported. Some women are stronger than men. And so when such men get a beating, they can't say, it's embarrassing. How can a woman beat you? They're weaker. Come on. Or how dare you beat a woman? Don't you think she's weaker? She has less strength. I know scientifically it is possible the male of the animal kingdom, any animal, including man, there's a certain way they're built. In the wild, of course, they're more beautiful. Think an ostrich or a peacock or a lion. The lion has a mane, the lioness doesn't have such structures. But we should not be in a place where we hurt because we're stronger, or we hurt because we know they're weaker or they belong to certain. It's not coming out as it is in my head, but I hope you've understood.
No, I think I got what you were saying, and which I think you conducted yourself like excellently in the podcast. So yeah, it was you. I don't think you need to. You don't need to qualify that. I think you've spoken excellently. But I think I got the gist of what you were trying to say. It kind of makes my last question I don't want to say meaningless, but the my last question was like, how do you empower or inspire other women like within your business or industry? But I'm thinking now, I mean, just based on what you said before, would you would you rather prefer inspiring them to achieve, well, not them, but like people in general, to kind of achieve whatever they need to achieve regardless of their gender? Yeah, I think that's the more appropriate question. And I mean, hopefully that inspiration, whether it's for men or for women, maybe it falls, or it's women pay attention to it a bit more, because I think the way that you see gender, I don't think it's very common, in my opinion. I think people still have like the perception that gender should kind of decide which direction they should go with their life or what their role should be. So would 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 yeah, like how actually I'm not sure where I'm going with my question actually.
I see where you're going. I see where you're going. I think fortunately, I have been so lucky that there are lots of women that work with Greenthing and at Greenthing are very sassy. They're very sassy. I have two single moms. No, I don't think they struggle with that so much. But just because they don't struggle with that or they don't clearly state it, because even in the company, they can see that we have boys. We've employed boys, we've employed men as well. But I'm also the founder. And I do what other men CEOs and founders do. And yes, while we've come so far in terms of gender equity, we still have so much to do. We have to go past catch up. I've been so lucky that I've grown up in the village where these things normally happen, because sometimes the law moves slower there. We cannot say start a protest fast without the chief maybe shutting it down. I have seen so much from the village to being a journalist to in different stories to living in a community to even understanding, like, I know fundraising is also one of those things that I had to learn, that main reason why I haven't been able to get the grants that I wanted to get. And I should probably start looking for a male co-founder, or actually stick to my story. And I don't know, I don't have to maybe execute everything I wanted to execute, but really truly live my purpose within what I can afford. I want to voice my concerns, my stand, without wanting to live up to somebody's statements. For example, if I get a grant because I'm a woman, then I probably have to bring it out all the time that women founded, women led, and whatever. That is not the center. I know they probably mean well. They want to equalize or create equity among different genders, but I tend not to make it a primary thing for me. Everybody in my company is equal. If you did bad work, you did bad work. You need to redo it. It has nothing to do with how you physiology. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. And I also realize how that point of thinking is a privilege. There are people who've been stuck in a place because of their gender while they were extremely qualified. There are people who've not been able to take opportunities because, let me tell you, what you're taught when you're a baby is so hard to scrap off when you're an adult. It's so hard. And I know that women have missed out on a better life because they were considered less of a human being. I know. And I try to bring that out in my stories, in my captions, in my videos. But that's not to say that we are not sassy enough to build whatever we can. Personally, I think even my daughter, she's strong. She's physically very strong, but also mentally. Yeah. No, I see the privilege. And I really hope anybody at privilege can try the little they can to bring other women to that level where they feel like, I deserve to be here too. I deserve to be heard too. I deserve to be seen. I deserve to do whatever I want to do. Yeah. I deserve to get into these rooms. I honestly have something to say. Unless we're discussing something that is very gender specific, which I doubt people do in an office, most offices. So, yeah, I'm coming, and they all should come. But also, another thing I wanted to add, I don't know if it's me, but a lot of women that I've interacted with have a very caring, nurturing nature. They tend to think about a concept and think about division of labor, almost as if they're running a home. Like, firstborn does that, that one does that, that one does that. We have this amount of food. I want it to be divided throughout the week. And so that nurturing and accountability and taking care of a family or themselves, I find that women in leadership positions, especially in environmental and in sustainability fields, I would think that women almost have it naturally. It's Mother Earth, honestly. It's girl talk. It's like talking to the planet, like, hey sis, what can I do for you today? I find it that it's a biased statement. I see how biased it is. But from where I'm coming from in the village, I know, and not even in the village where I came from, where men used to go to the city to get a job and then bring money. But the woman was giving birth, taking care of those children, breastfeeding them, look for a school, make sure the school uniform is clean, drinking water is there. That is so hard in comparison to going to a city and your job is just to work and get money. It's so hard. And I feel that they are stronger to a degree when they bring that knowledge. But also, that could be a man. It could be a man. It's just that traditionally, it's always been women given that responsibility of taking care of a home and children, which is one of the biggest sources of fast consumption, but also waste, how we consume, how we live. And so it's really important that we have women in those positions. But merit, like we said, merit, this is what they bring.
Definitely a lot to unpack there. But I think I don't want to dive too much deep, or else we're going to turn into I think the podcast is going to turn into something else, you know. Not in a bad way per se, but I want to try and keep it on the sustainable theme, you know. but yeah, lots of interesting points, lots to think about. I mean, for me personally as well, and I'm sure for our audience, after we release our podcast, I think you've given some real insights, not just from an entrepreneurship perspective, but from a mental preparation perspective in terms of being original, finding, educating yourself, changing your attitude. I think you've touched on a lot of practical ways to kind of improve and just structure things so that anybody looking out to go and try or start their own venture, it's I mean, after watching this, they'll I feel they'll be like emboldened and empowered with the things that you kind of shared. So I mean, really thankful for that. I know I'm definitely going to take a lot of the things you said and see where I can implement it to improve myself. So yes, I mean, this has been an illuminating conversation. But yeah, that's I think I'm gonna wrap up now. I mean, it's been fantastic getting to know you, Nelly. For our audience, as usual, for any of your hosting needs, you can feel free to check out our website. We're also on Facebook and LinkedIn and other social media. You can find Nelly and her business online as well. We'll, if you have any questions or topics you'd like to hear about, feel free to reach out to us. We have the details of today's episode in the show notes. That includes Nelly's business, and hopefully you can get a taste of her philosophy as well after you make a purchase there. So thanks for listening to the HostAfrican. Goodbye.